one. So when Heidi does, in order for her to do the VDOE upload, she literally has to go in for every single line and go into the documents, and she has to identify what it is. And in some cases, like the VDOE wants the quantity, right? So if it's 2,000 gloves, it helps in the details when POs and purchases are being made. If in the notes or in the description, it's more detailed. Instead of just PPE, it's gloves, face masks, Lysol wipes, right?
You're not having them put quantities and stuff in there.
Is that asking too much?
Well, I think personally that the PPE piece has seemed to be the piece that we, as long as they had the PO, our direction for them was to include the POs. So if you can see the POs by month, it should give you all the stuff. Problematic is if you want to do it going forward, I think it would be okay. But having them go back and rename stuff, I think is kind of counter into. I just think it's a lot of work.
I am in complete agreement with you, Sandy. Anytime, we make changes or ask for enhancements, we need to make sure that it's moving forward, not.
So what we want to put in my reminder is for PPE, include in your description, you want what was bought.
Yeah, so for example, in the description, if they could list gloves, gloves, wipes, masks, right? Because then that helps us with our narrative. And in some cases, if the narrative is good, so I'm going to use the Department of Student Services, right? So with they have a lot of invoices coming in because of due process, right? And what I'm noticing is that the descriptions, depending upon who submits it, some descriptions are more detailed than others, right? So some descriptions may say legal fees. Some descriptions may just give us the name of the person. Well, that doesn't help us. So then we have to go in and review all the documentation to infer, okay, these were in-home tutoring as a result of due process. So then our description becomes due process, in-home tutoring services, and then the month. So like some of them are multiple months. So in the description, if they could put in-home tutoring and the month in the notes, that would be extremely helpful.
And for schools, what you're talking about is having them put in something like PPE, gloves, wipes, mask. Well, you want the month first. March, PPE, gloves, wipes, mask.
Yes, please. That would be extremely helpful. And again, it's not going backwards. It's moving forward because it's taking Heidi anywhere, Heidi and Ivy, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes per line to figure out how what to put in the description for the Virginia Department of Education.
It's crazy how much time it's taken to do this stuff. I'm telling you. It's
yes.
quite
Can
Yeah,
I add something
I'm
also?
happy to put in a reminder of descriptions. There's our boy.
There's Jackson.
Thank you, dear.
I'm in love. I got a Jackson and I got a Carson.
I know, I am too. He makes me smile.
Yep, yep.
That's a,
So
that's a little happy for the morning.
e- exactly, exactly. So just an update from my side. First of all, I want to thank everyone. Um, I have now gone through the FMR and verified all of the staffing through the end of December, and I'm working on January and February now. And so I just want to say thank you. My overall instincts are our schools are doing a tremendous job, right, with the documentation. I am just grateful for all the extra efforts that our schools are doing to make sure that they have the documentation. I'll name that I will be, Sandy and I coordinated on Tuesday, Sandy? We have a few schools that are either missing documents or we need a signed statement from the principal indicating that the work documented on the FS 174 is allowable under CARES. What I'll name is that we can see a big difference in the documents that were submitted in October and November versus the December documents. And I'm even going to say the January documents, right? And so thank you for those of you that come to these CARES Act office hours and are working with your financial analysts, because there was a huge shift in the quality of the documents provided, and that has just been huge. So just a reminder, we're asking the documents through February all need to be in the CARES Act folder by Friday, April the 16th. But we will be sending out about 13 emails on Monday, just asking schools either to submit a few documents that are missing or to send in a few memos. So if you don't get an email on Monday morning at 9:30, you're golden. I have those delayed until that time. And again, I just want to say thank you, because the sheer amount of work that has gone into that has been huge. I just want to emphasize that when you are saving documents to the CARES Act folder, saving them with month first is absolutely critical to assist our team with the FMR reconciliation and BDOE reimbursement. Some of you will notice in your folders that I've actually renamed some files and folders to have that naming convention. And so I put in the CARES Act Q&A, some examples. Again, the naming conventions have been so much better, starting with the December documents. So again, it's just evidence that these CARES Act office hours are really having a tremendous impact and are a huge support for our schools. So those are the only updates that I have. Sandy, how about from your side?
I'm going to have quite an update for the for the month. I know. Hey,
I'm drinking coffee on that one.
so yes, we have a major update coming, and I'm also purposely not sending out my weekly email until Monday so that you can get it bright and early on Monday. But what's going to happen is And what we have done is we have come up with reporting for schools and departments where you can go through Orbit and print your CARES Act expenditures for the month. So this is an FMR reconciliation. And the change is going to be, so we've updated the website with the guidelines and in the training manual to include that schools should be doing FMR reconciliations every month for CARES. Okay. If you've already reconciled and printed reports like through budget actual, and you've been doing that reconciliation, those reports you don't have to go back and print for prior months. You just need to put those reports in your folders by month because we need to see those FMR reconciliations to make sure you guys are reconciling. And we found the need for that because what's happening is a lot of people don't use budget versus actual and weren't printing the reports. So we wanted to make sure we gave you an easy way to print them. You can print them off in Orbit. The principal signs and dates, and it's another layer of verification for us as we send these reimbursements that everybody says these are CARES Act expenditures. They fit under CARES Act and sign off on it. So it's an important component. I know it's late coming, but they just loaded today the reporting for it. So hopefully you'll find it to be helpful. It's an easy way to pull the reports. I think the only difference is you've got to put them in your folders and sign off on them. And it's going to help you actually, because I think what we've been finding is people are confused for time and attendance that's put in those last days of the month. It might not hit until the next month, depending on when they put in their time. So the way we want you to do your expenditures is you're putting all your forms, you're putting all your everything together with the expenditures that hit for that month. So if you've got your FMR reconciliation, you can go down your list and say, oh, I've got all my PARS forms, I've got all my stuff that's hit for the month. And I actually think it's going to make it easier for you guys rather than more difficult. I think it's going to kind of ease for some people because there were questions around where does it go? When did they work? Where do I put it?
Right.
What month is it for? So I think you'll find it to be easier. I do. And again, we appreciate your patience as we continue to make changes, but we find stuff and we see that changes need to be made. So we have to pass it along. But this one's not I don't think you'll find this one to be a big deal.
No, and Sandy, just from reviewing the files, there are a lot of schools that are already doing that. You know, I won't say 50% of them, but I will say that we have a number of schools that when I reviewed the documents have the FMR, the FS 174s, the HR 11s, and even the My Time reports.
Yeah.
All in one file saved for like the month of January. And so I saw more of those starting with January, right? December and January, because that's when we started doing the CARES Act office hours. So, you know, as we've gone through, we've refined, but it is so much better.
And we so appreciate the work that you guys are doing, because this is not easy, and we know how much time and effort it is. And I can tell you from working with Yvonne that we're trying to go with the information that we have if we can. We are not trying to put more work on your plate. I promise you we're not. But there's certain information that we have to clarify. So if we're asking you for something, it's because it's been reviewed by Yvonne and we need it. So it's not, because we are trying our best not to do do-overs and stuff, but there are certain instances where it could be questioned, and we just need to make sure we've got proper backup for stuff. So thank you guys for what you're doing to help us.
Any questions for Sandy?
You're just waiting for that Monday email.
I know, right? Tasha?
Hey there, not a question, but it's great to see those reports there. While you were talking, I just printed out all of mine, so I'll get those signed and uploaded hopefully before Monday, before the email even goes out.
It's pretty easy, isn't it, Tasha?
Those are great.
It's all separated for you. You don't have to go in and do anything. Just print them out.
Yep.
Compare them to what you've got in your folder, and off you go. Awesome.
Yep, they're terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. Tasha and Cindy are my two go-tos. So, you know, I know that, you know, it's a lot, and working through some of the nuances, but we appreciate your patience with us. Sue, Cindy and I worked on a JE over the past couple of days, but we got it, didn't we, ladies? So that's awesome. Sabrina, I see you on the call. Do you have any updates from your side?
Good morning, everyone. No updates from the compliance side.
Yay!
Just put a happy dance on that one.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. And I saw Jerome on the call. Jerome, do you have any updates from the budget side?
How you doing? How you doing, everybody? Good morning.
Good morning.
So there was an email, I think, with you, Yvonne, along with Jacqueline and a bunch of other people as far as the funds for the CARES grant. So in the email that I stated that the funds are put back in the CARES grant, and I explained why we took it out and why we reversed the BT. So I just want to give everyone an update that was involved in there that yes, the money is back in the grant.
Okay, excellent, Jerome. And then my other question for you, the nutrition gear grant, has that been loaded yet? And do we have an internal order for that?
So I will have to get back to you on that for the nutrition.
Okay. Okay, all right. I have a private school that wants to place an order for their food insecure families. And so it is a priority. So I'll look forward to getting that update. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Did I miss anybody else?
Hey, Cindy.
Oh, good, Cindy. I'm glad. That's good feedback, right, Sandy?
We like good feedback. We do. I did think people would like this report, and I do think it'll be easier for them to match up what goes where. based on pulling this report every month. Then there's no question. This, oh, I see that name. I need
Right.
my forms to go with this name. See that name?
Exactly.
And they match them up. That's what they've got to do. And I think there was confusion before, and I see why there was, especially because of the timing of when people put stuff in and stuff. So
yeah, and Sandy, to Sue's point, when she was working with Cindy and I on that JE, you know, early on we had indicated that when schools were saving a group of FS 174s, right? Some now, and I'll just name that we have schools that are still saving them by teacher by month, and that's fine, right? But for schools that are combining their FS 174s and attaching one HR 11, there was some confusion around that HR 11, right? And so they can use the same HR 11 when they're saving the documents that way. But I want to make sure that we clarify that when JEs are being completed, that Cindy, thank you for your patience with us, right? That the HR 11 has to be specific to the employee, and even if the JE is moving overtime into CARES, Sue and I and Cindy realize as well that we still need to document the time as being CARES related, right? So then the FS 174 wouldn't list overtime. It would say CARES, family communication and engagement, right? So those are just.
The description still has to say what work they were doing.
Yes, rather than it being OT.
Yeah, because they've got to, because that form is how we know that they worked for CARES Act.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. So is there something else I need to communicate out based on that? Because I am already doing the PPE reminder with the description. Journal, I just think, well, I don't know. I think maybe that's a kind of a case by case, because PARS forms have to have what work did you do for CARES, and I don't think that's necessarily a change. What do you think, Sue? And Cindy, since y'all were doing all the changes.
No, I agree.
Okay. I'm going to leave it and we'll work some of those, because sometimes it's easier to work with schools individually
Right.
on stuff. And
Yes.
I'm fine with that. I think that's where we should be kind of coming back and doing stuff. Yes, somebody's got a question with their hand up.
Ivy?
Yes, it's me. Can I be more plain for the PPE descriptions? Is it possible to add the school or no? The school name? Because what I have to do is I have to, after getting all the description, I have to look for the course center and go to the crosswalk and find out which school is this that this PPE was shipped to. So
in the notes, you want the name of the school and?
Is it possible?
Sandy?
Yeah, it's possible. That's a brand new request. It is. I don't think it would be hard. My schools need to weigh in on this.
You know, if it's a big thing, that's
it's not
fine.
a big thing. I'm trying to save you time, Heidi. So I appreciate you asking. So I would like to hear from either Cindy or Tasha or some of the schools. I don't think it's a big deal to have you add your school name.
Even the abbreviation of the school, like the first four letters will be okay.
Yeah.
Are we talking about naming the focus cart?
What are we talking about?
No, when you save the documentation out there and you save it by month. So if you're doing
for the
your
expenditures?
PPE, what she's saying is and when she's verifying stuff, if she's not familiar with school codes and stuff, so she's got to go back to her school by her list, look up the school code, figure out what school it's for, and then go look at the documents in the CARES Act folder for that school to make sure she's got everything. Am I right?
That's correct.
But
That's why Yvonne was saying it takes.
Quite time consuming.
It is very time consuming.
But are we talking about like the focus orders and that we want the school name in the focus order to match what's in the saved in the CARES folder for backup?
Well, your backup documentation, I think she just wants the school name in somewhere in the name of the backup documentation.
Okay. I haven't done any backup documentation because technically we haven't been approved for any of our expenditures yet. So I haven't done any of that.
Tasha, what do you think, Tasha?
Sorry, I had someone speaking with me. What was the question?
What has been asked is, do you think it's a big deal to ask when we're saving stuff to the folders to include the school name in the description of what you're saving to your folders? And
So the actual file name of each file?
Well, yeah, when you're saving it, because especially for the PPE, when they're verifying it, Heidi, who works with Yvonne, has to go back because she's not familiar with the school codes and stuff. So when she's looking at POs and stuff, but let me ask you this, Heidi, when you're doing the verification, are you already in the school folder, or are you looking at your list of expenditures that Yvonne gives you? I'm trying to understand what you're verifying it against.
No, when I'm looking at my list, I'm looking at the BMR, my expenditure, and I see like $229.20. I have to figure out. I look at either it's a PO, is a GE, and I have to look at the backup, and then some of the backup doesn't have the school name, so I have to go back and look at the course center in the crosswalk to find out what school was shipped.
You send me your report, and I'm pretty good at pivot tables and adding information. If you send me your report, I can pivot your information and add the school name as a column. Would that be helpful to you?
I don't think it will work this way, because I can send you how the sheet looks like, but it's not, because I can do pivot as well, but it's not gonna work this way. No, it's different. It's totally different. The reimbursement looks different than, yeah.
Okay. I was just hopeful that we could help you a different way.
I know. You know, if it's too much that I'm asking for, that's okay.
I don't think it is. I was just trying to see if we could do it a different way. I will ask them, is it only for PPE, or do you want it for hourly too?
Just PPE.
Just PPE. I can do that.
Okay.
I have a question. Would it help, Heidi, if we just gave you a list of all the first 6 digits of their cost center with the school name? So if it's, SSH 500, we would say, Fairfax High School, and give you that in just like a 2-column Excel.
I use, of course, I go to the crosswalk, and
anyway,
it's the same thing. So
right, I'm just saying you could just look it up quickly on this list, because we could give you the entire thing.
Maybe that will help as well. Why not? Yeah, as one sheet in front of me, that's okay. Thank you for the suggestion.
I think she's just trying to do it quickly, because I want everybody out here to know she's looking at about what, 7,000, 8,000 lines of data.
Yes, that's correct.
and
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
89.
when you're going back and forth every time. So I absolutely get that. So I don't have a problem going forward with having us do that and having us put the school name in the description for PPE, if that's helpful to you.
Yeah, that document is 212 pages and 89, almost 8,900 lines.
Yeah.
So
I underestimated. Sorry.
yeah. So, my wondering is, and I'm thinking about this from the VDOE standpoint, I'm wondering if we even need to break that reimbursement down. And rather than submitting 212 pages to the VDOE, we break it down and even submit it by month. So Sabrina, I'm going to follow up with you and Tiffany on that, because I think the Virginia Department of Ed is going to scream if we do an upload. And to be honest with you, I'm worried about that upload, to even know whether or not Omega can even handle it. So I'll follow up with you early next week, but I'm thinking we may need to break that down and do maybe once we have it completely done, right? Because we know that there were things charged in October that were reclassed in February, but once we have it reconciled, my wondering is, can the system hold that? So I'll follow up with you and Tiffany next week to get your thinking on that.
Okay, we may want to call Liz into that meeting as well.
Okay. How about next Friday, we add that to the grants management meeting?
Okay, yep, that sounds good.
Okay, all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, Yvonne, I was thinking the same way, and I was chatting this with Ivy. I was like, I'm not sure if Omega will handle to submit, to upload all of these lines. I don't think it's gonna take it. I'm not sure, but we have to check before we finish all the work and then, oops.
Yeah, we may want to check our Omega support in Fairfax is Paul Downey. So we may want to check with him to see if there's any threshold limitations for Omega. So I'll add that to my to-do list.
And I can put that for PPE, if you could please add the school name in your description when you say your documentation. If that helps you guys, we want to try to help you. We're not trying to, trying to make it as easy as we can. And Sue can still send you the list. We'll do double, we'll double up and try to make it as easy as we can.
So I see a couple of the Title I team members in there. So Deepak, when you're helping our Title I schools do JEs, you put the 4-letter school name. So if it's Glen Forest, it's GLEN. And then what do you put in the description on the requisition so that it comes out the way to support the VDOE reimbursement? What else do you put in there?
So for material, we would, do give a notation of PPE. And if it is hourly, then we would state hourly and try to fit in the name as well. And if it relates to the benefits, since Title I only handles FICA, then, we'll try and indicate FICA correlating to that hourly. So it is doable. I know the limitation of description space, but we try to squeeze in as much information visible within the guidelines over there. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to be transparent. I have not generated a PO using our focus process, right? So I don't have that visual for what that description line looks like, nor how many character limits. Sandy, do you have any idea?
I don't think I think you can fit a lot of information in the name. I don't know. Sue, do you know if there's a character limit?
Well, part of the issue is most of these are done through the warehouse and there is no PO. It's a reservation. So I'm still unclear where exactly you're needing this name.
When schools are ordering PPE.
But where specifically? What
when
description?
They save the documentation to the folder, right? Isn't that
but
where?
Then she already. Yeah, that I don't understand that because then she's already in the school's folder at that point.
No. It's when you're generating the PO and in the description.
I'm misunderstanding it.
The description or the title?
Yeah.
Because you have a title and then you have a description below it. Does the description populate into the report, or is only the title populate into the report?
I don't know that it will populate in the report. Here's what
That's what I think. That's what I keep thinking.
I need to work with Heidi offline, and Heidi needs to show me what she's looking at, because now I understand what you're saying. You're asking for when they create the reservation, can that description be included for PPE? Because I think if they put PPE in the description for it, that would tell you for each line item, but I need to look at her report. So Heidi and I need to, or we can set a time and I can meet with you, Yvonne, either today or I'm here today and tomorrow. I don't know if you're off, but we can meet and try to figure out what's the best way and what I would put out to the schools.
Okay.
Sure.
Heidi, how about you, Sandy, and I stay on after this call? And Heidi,
at 11. Sorry.
You have a meeting at 11?
Yeah, coordinators.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to the office after the meeting too. So either in the evening or
this afternoon.
Okay, this afternoon is good. Like after lunch, maybe around like 1:30 or so.
You guys tell me. I'm fine. I just have an 11 o'clock.
No problem. Yeah, I'm going to the office to pick up something, so I'll be there around 1:30 maybe.
But I can, now that I'm understanding, you weren't talking about the folders. You were talking about when they create the, yes. So that's a whole different thing. And getting people to put in correct descriptions when they put in the warehouse order is super, I'm going to say it's going to be difficult because, but I can certainly try. Yeah.
Okay. So are you able to see my screen?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is the FMR report, right? And see these descriptions?
Uh-huh.
These are the descriptions that the VDOE requires, right?
Right.
And so when we go down with this PPE, that is the only thing that shows for that document number. So Heidi and Ivy literally have to go in and enter all these type in all these comments. And so if we go down general office supplies, Amazon, Guernsey, general office supplies, right? It comes in and you can see where they have put in the descriptions. So
That almost
this
seems
is
like something that needs to be done and focus on the back end.
Yeah, I need to look at this and see. I will tell you, if you send me some that for the schools that say just PPE, I can work with systems and see if we can get you the information a different way.
okay.
Is PPE what populates on the report, or is that what you guys were typing in?
No, we type this.
Yeah, we have to type that
We
in.
have to type this too.
So is it normally just blank?
It either has the description that the school put in, or it puts in the commitment item. And then we have to convert it with the level of detail that the VDOE requires.
If
Is
you
it the
can
description
send me
or the title?
send me the blank ones, and I'll work with either Michelle or systems to see if we can come up with a different line item that we pull in for you guys
Okay.
based
Okay.
on the document number, which I can't. I need to talk to. I can follow up with Michelle Francis and with systems, but I think the information is in focus somewhere. So if we can bring in what those documents are tied to give you a description, I think that would do it for you. But I think we can do it without including the schools. So if you send me just the ones that are blank or with PPE, and you can do it in a different document if you want, and I will work with her and we'll try to come up with something for you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I think the information resides in focus.
Oh,
So
it's all in focus. It's just a
Okay.
matter of we've got to go digging for it.
I don't want you to dig for it. So I think if I can come up with a report based on document numbers for you, we could fill it in and do it that way, add a column or something. So that's what I think we can do. So if you send me that, and then, so that being said, I think if you send me that information, we should meet after I meet with Michelle or in systems. And I'm meeting, and I'll talk to Priyanka, the coordinator for systems, at my meeting at 11 to let her know I'll be kind of working on something.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah. And,
We'll do our
Sandy, that spreadsheet that I sent across to you on Tuesday,
Has it?
yeah, I just have the tabs hidden. So if you click on the bottom, you've got the full document. I just hid the tabs.
Okay, I'll look at it.
All right.
I'm on it.
Okay, thank you. That is awesome.
No, hey, there's got to be a way. I mean, the information is there. There's got to be a way without going back and having to, you know.
I wonder if there's a report that you can pull that lists all the items in the PO, and then you could cross-check the PO and that report to the PO and another report, and then you wouldn't have to go into it. You could just see mask gloves and already have it right there, and so you could just kind of like toggle back between the two reports. If
we could even do a pivot if the information's there in a different report, and pivot and do a lookup table and add it to what they've got. So there's ways we can do it. The problem is it's not in a reportable form. So we need a report that includes the descriptions so that we can add it to what they have without them having to go back and forth.
Yeah. And Heidi, my wondering is, might you send Sandy the format that is utilized to upload the information into Omega? That is that tab, right, that says uploads, correct?
Correct.
So Sandy, if when you look at that spreadsheet and unhide all the tabs at the bottom, one of the tabs is named upload.
So look at the upload tab.
What's that?
Look at the upload tab.
Look at the upload tab, because it's that upload tab that matches the requirements in Omega as part of the VDOE reimbursement. So that would give you what comes out of Focus versus what has to go to VDOE. So it would give you both lens.
Okay. Let me see what we can do.
Okay. And then if not, just send me an email and our Teams invite and we'll Teams.
Okay. Sounds good. That's what we'll do.
Okay. All right. All right. So any additional questions for us, our team? Thank you for our patience. Thank you for your patience as we were working through our nuances.
If no one else has questions to them, I can ask my specific question, but I know mine will be longer, so I don't want to trump anybody else that has a question.
Please go ahead, Cindy, and then we'll see if Tasha and Deborah, I want to see who else is on.
Okay. All right. So I feel like we got Celeste's overtime handled. I feel like we did that between you and Sue. So I'll submit that to Carlin. She's in Turks and Caicos right now, so I don't know if she'll respond back, but
I wouldn't.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like it's a principle thing where it's like, no matter what, even if they're on vacation, like she'll be in Turks and Caicos, like still checking her email. But so Sue, this is more of a question for you since Yvonne and I already talked about this one. We were trying to determine how detailed we needed to be with my other journal entry.
I have no power.
I'm pulling up my memo for it right now. So it's for.
I can't get my monitor to come on. The light is on, but not this outlet.
I'm uploading the doc right now. Hold on. So it's for an IA. So he works 7.5 hours a day. He works. So like Celeste was easy because, you know, she works 40 hours a week. So any hours that she does past the 40 is overtime. So that's like easy peasy. Whereas with Seth, because he's an IA and follows a teacher contract and, you know, someday, and I guess IAs don't get paid like the same days that we get paid. So we've managed to have most of his overtime be done or we've managed most of his hours to not have overtime. But so he may work in 1 month 21 hours or something like that, but he's only getting 4 hours of overtime that month. So it's not cut and dry. Whereas like Celeste was like, we worked for 3 hours. She worked 3 hours. She got overtime for 3 hours. Whereas with Seth, it's like he worked 14 hours, but he got overtime for 4. And I was thinking that I needed to be like very specific with how that was broken down. And Yvonne was hoping that I wouldn't need to be that specific. So we were kind of trying to figure out like how much detail you guys want. Like, do you want me to say like he worked 14 hours in this month and on the week of this, he got 4 hours of overtime, which means that he got that at his salary and a half, which was at this amount and blah, blah, blah.
No, you just need to put that he worked 4 hours of overtime total. And that was on, but your description for CARES, and you guys correct me if you don't agree, has to say CARES, whatever he was working on, intervention and support, and these were the hours. And we don't care whether it's overtime because you're going to then do a JE to move it to the hourly technical or hourly teacher.
So all of his CARES hours hit to the correct place. So they all hit to CARES. It's just because he's the SPED teacher, his overtime hit the SPED overtime account. So we're just moving, I think it's a total of like 8.5 hours over 2 months. So he did 4 hours in 1 month and then 4.5 hours in another month. So I can just say he worked 4 hours in November and he worked 4.5 hours in December. This is the overtime that's being moved. This is the total overtime. So I don't need to break down like exactly what he worked or anything.
Well, you do have to say that he worked. So if he worked 4 hours of overtime and the overtime that he worked was for CARES Act, you have to say 4 hours for intervention and support. And we don't care whether you mark it as overtime. It's got to be on its own line that he worked 4 hours for CARES. And then that overtime that we're seeing that you move, we should see those expenditures hit in overtime on your FMR, right? So it hit overtime in your CARES Act funding. Am I correct?
Well, it hit the normal, so 14 hours hit the CARES Act funding, and then 4 hours hit Woodson's overtime.
Because it goes back, overtime and overbase automatically hits.
Yeah.
In this where he's tied to.
Right.
So that's your journal entry that you're going to have to do.
So you don't need me to mention how many total hours he worked in CARES that month, just the overtime, since that's all that I'm moving.
Correct. Well, you're confusing me. So I see confused faces. I do need to know what he worked for CARES Act to include his regular hours and his overtime hours.
So I need to say in the month of January, he worked 14 hours for CARES, but only 4 of those hours were eligible for overtime.
Correct. So
okay.
How do you guys want to see it? What do you suggest, Yvonne? Because I think it needs to be broken out so that we can see that overtime, she's going to do it as a JE, right? So, and the JE may not hit in the month.
It doesn't. It hits the next month.
So you've got to report the hours when you do the JE. Am I right? She reports the hours when she moves the expenditures.
So let me, because I actually opened up the wrong thing. Oh, there's Seth's. Okay, so the memo that I wrote, follow me, people. It said during the months of January and February, Seth was pre-approved to work off contract hours for CARES. The work he performed was intervention, which is allowable, blah, blah, blah. Due to Seth being a non-exempt monthly paid employee that is contracted 7.5 hours a day, he was eligible to be paid 4 hours of overtime the week of January 18th and 4.5 hours of overtime the week of February 8th. We will need to move a total of blah, which is the combination of blah and blah, from Cat A overtime to CARES overtime. So I was making a table, and it says, did you hear the baby?
But so you're going to report those hours for overtime when you do the JE. So yeah. Wouldn't the parse form reflect those hours for when she moves the expenditures, Yvonne?
Well, that's what we were having a problem with before, because in Celeste and I's original FS 174s, we had a line, like for her, it was 3 hours under CARES and it was 3 hours under overtime, because that's what reflected in my time. But then I guess Yvonne and Sue were saying that I shouldn't have the overtime in there because then it's showing that she worked 6 hours instead of 3. And then my confusion was because, and I mean, it all makes sense, but, you know, just logistically trying to write it down, because like in my head, I was like, well, the 3 hours that she works for CARES and the 3 hours she gets for overtime are both charged out of 2 different accounts at 2 different pay rates, because overtime is at her 1.5 salary, whereas the CARES was at hourly band 10. that was my thought, was that because it's two different pay rates out of two different pots of money, that it would be marked differently. And so that's why like we were getting confused.
Where it comes down to is, when are the expenditures going to hit? When are we going to see those expenditures hit in the CARES Act funding? Because that's when the PARS form has to match. So when you do the JE to move the expenditures, that overtime has to hit for the month that you're doing it. So if you're not moving the overtime hours until now, the PARS form should reflect those hours in the month you're doing the JE. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, and see, this is why I'm confused, because technically, I feel that
sorry, I've got to leave. I've got to go to another meeting, and I need a minute before I go to the other meeting. So sorry.
That's okay. Sue and I will tag team this one.
And let me know if you need my input then after. I'm happy to provide it.
Okay. So Sue, I don't know how you feel about this one, but I feel that this one should be done the same way that she did Celeste's, right? So if the time being, like, she's doing a JE, but the JE is from the previous month, right? So the documentation that that Cindy should be submitting for him should be the FS 174 from the previous month that reflects when the actual time was done, right? So I believe what my recommendation to Cindy is that we do like what we did with Celeste's form, that we document that it was CARES, and it was, I'm going to use January, right? So it was on January's FS 174, but when she does her journal entry, we know that it's going to charge
April,
right? So she would have April's FMR, she would have January's FS 174, and a memo from the principal stating that this time, overtime, is being moved from January to, from the special education fund to the CARES fund.
Yeah, I think I basically agree on all of that, because I think that the hours, the FS 174 is, like you said, that's when the actual hours were worked. And on there, it doesn't matter what they were paid or what pay band or whatever, it's what they were actually doing.
Okay.
Right.
So in January, they were working these as CARES Act, then they would be CARES Act for these hours. And then that would be the backup that goes with the memo, where Cindy already said she has all of the detail to clarify this is when it was charged to overtime. We're moving it to CARES Act, hourly, whatever, because this was actually CARES Act.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Cindy, I think your memo from your principal just needs to, if you go to the CARES Act Q&A, there's a sample of a memo, an approval
The
memo,
one you sent,
right?
the little one?
Yes, it's also on the CARES Act Q&A, right?
Okay.
And so it doesn't have to be exact, but I would keep it simple, right? And just say, we are moving overtime hours for this employee. The hours were allowable under CARES, and then whatever it was, whether it was family engagement, communication, whatever the category is, right? And so that we're not getting into all of that the pay band doesn't matter, right, Sue?
Right. Yeah, as long as they're under the total cap max for the grant, which they would be, it doesn't matter for those.
Right.
Okay.
So my recommendation is keep your memo succinct and do the FS 174 like we did with Celeste's.
Okay.
Okay. I know that's a lot, but I mean, when you're moving charges from a couple of months prior, I'd just rather you name the month this posted here, because your FMR for that month, right? In your special education, you're going to provide your special education FMR as part of your supporting documentation, as part of the JE process.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, Sue, am I right on that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I like it.
Okay, good. Again, these complexities, it's a team effort. All right, we are 2 minutes over, but I want to make sure, are there any additional questions for our team? Hi, Lisa.
Sorry, I didn't mean to push the camera button.
That's okay. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you everyone for coming. Cindy, thank you for asking that. It was important that we make sure that we get that right. Yours were complex. I'm just going to say, you've brought two complexities this week to the table.
Here I was thinking that when I had the teacher that used the wrong fund code and the wrong pay band, that was complicated, but it actually ended up being the easiest one.
Exactly. Well, that's why those HR 11s are so important, is so that, you know, teachers can go back and look at a piece of paper that has the index and
if they look back at it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to presume positive intentions.
Did we decide to report the PARs in the month that she moves the charges?
No. The PARs would be when the hours were actually worked for that activity, because that activity happened in January, for example.
But it's not going to show up on the FMR. It's not going to show up on the FMR for that month.
Right, this is for the JE though, and the JE is saying that I'm moving it to CARES Act this month, and here's when they worked it, and that's what we've been doing for all their other JEs. Is the FS 174 is for the actual when it was worked. I'm doing CARES Act, but it got charged to the wrong account, so I'm moving it.
But she needs to attach it to her JE.
Oh yeah,
for February.
Oh yeah, I have all the backup docs.
Yeah, whenever she does it.
Whenever, or for whenever, for April, when you're doing the JE.
Right. And
the FMR where the original overtime posted to.
That FMR goes with the JE too, right?
Yeah, I have all the backup documentation. It was more of just figuring out how to word the memo.
Yeah. The memo and then the PARS form is for when they actually work the hours.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Confusing.
Well, hers were complex.
Yeah.
I like to keep us on our toes.
Well, it's just, it is hard when you've got them working and then we're doing stuff, because a lot of the high schools are doing JEs to move stuff. A lot of them are. So it's
Yeah,
making sure
for
they
sure.
got the forms for the right times.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. The weekend is almost here. I enjoy it. It's supposed to turn a little cool, but it's going to be sunny. So enjoy, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks. Bye.